Okay, so this morning what we're going to do is basically we're going to do 2019 ordinary level woodwork question. So this is on a woodwork paper, but it was still an orthographic question. And they asked to do a front view and an end view. We're also going to try to use a plan, but we may put in 4 main dimensions as well. It does say include hidden detail, and one thing that's different in the woodwork papers for a lot of you that do woodwork as well is that it is going to give something information in the writing. So basically it says all material is 10 millimeters. So there is going to be some info that seems to be missing. So obviously if we're not sure what height this is or what depth this is, it must be 10 millimeters. Now there is something unusual in this question, and that's just this sort of feature here. So let's say it's a napkin holder, and you can sort of get an idea what it looks like here, but they have a different size groove here. So obviously I have something here that is something similar. So this is basically a rod that basically comes in an IKEA set, but what it has is grooved to a thinner distance here, so that basically what'll happen is it'll slot in there. That'll stop it from sliding in and out that way, but allow it to move up and down so that it can't fall off the object, but will have some bit of weight behind it that'll move up and down. So that's basically what that is. So as a result here, when we look down on it straight from the top, we're going to see it as a rectangle. Okay, when we look down on it from the front as well, it's going to look the same. When we look in at it from the end, unfortunately can't lift it up, but basically we're going to see a circle, and then we'll have a hidden detail circle in here for a smaller size. But hopefully we'll see that as we go along. So we're going to just position it roughly on our page. It's quite long, so it's 170 long, and then we have to do an end view, it's 150. So total that's 320, excluding the gap. So we want to keep it very close to the left. I'll try to get as much in as the right. I don't know if my visualizer goes out perfectly that it'll fit, and we want space for the plan. So if we look at the height, we have a 10 mil height here, and then if we look, we have a radius 65. So the height of it is going to be 75. So we'll come down, we'll say, let's see, 100 to start. Okay, so I'm going to draw my XY line. We'll draw it as a dark line. Come down 100 from the edge of my page. Okay, and again, because it's so big, we're only going to come in 10 millimeters from the edge to start off. So from the front, we can see that the base of it's 170. So let's see if I know that the step square. Handy. Here it is. Sorry. So my smaller one only went to 160, so this goes to 170. And if we measure up, we have a 10 mil base on it. Okay, so we'll put a little mark there, and we'll bring it over. So then we can see it's 150 for the basically the bit between the napkins, or the 2 outside rails. So obviously if we take 170 and minus 150, that gives us 20, and then that means that we're 10 millimeters in from either side, and then also we must have a 10 millimeter width for the material. Okay, now this here isn't going to actually be 65, it's going to be slightly less because of the groove cut out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark that up. I'll do the end view and I'll come back and figure out the exact size. I then seem to have some sort of ledges in the object. So I'll go up 10 millimeters again, because I assume basically it was done in the woodwork room and all the material was 10 millimeters that was laid out. So 10 and 10. So that's that. And then again, I have sort of some bit of a mark here, but what I'll do is I'll do my plan view and I'll figure out that gap. I could figure it out regardless, but it's best technically to project considering we're doing all 3 views. So we're going to leave just a gap of 10 millimeters here, and the side of it is 150, or maybe I'll leave a gap of 20. No, 10 will be fine. Okay, I thought it would come closer to the edge of the page, but it's actually fairly okay. So I'll bring these up. Okay, and I'll project across my light line here. Now, what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm just going to heavy in some of the elevation, just so that it stands out, and the end view, just so that it stands out, so that it's a little bit easier for you to distinguish it. Various parts at home. So there's my edge from my end view. And I know this is a solid line for my end view. I know this is a solid for my front. I know this part here is solid. And I know this part here is solid. And as I said, we're going to figure out the height here in a second. So we're going to continue on with this. So we have a center point here needed. So if we have 150, or half of that is 70. 5, and we know our radius is 65. So we'll put a mark there for 65. We'll take our compass. We'll put in our pencil and we'll adjust it out. Okay, so again I'm going to draw this lightly to start with. So we're happy enough with that. And then we're going to draw the centre line up the middle because it's going to be useful. If we look at the groove in the question, so we can see that it shows me here that there's a 10 mil gap here. So if we look at that, what we can see basically is there's a 10 mil gap here, but that must be 5 mil to the left of the centre line and 5 mil to the right to make up the 10 mil in total. We come out 5 mil here and we come out 5 mil here. And again, we'll draw that lightly. We're not too worried where it stops for the minute. Oh. We're a little bit crooked there. Okay, so basically we have our groove there. That's our centre line up the middle. And then we can start to construct some various other bits. So we can put in our hidden detail for these bits. We can bring these across. Okay, so we're going to have some bit of hidden detail here. It asks specifically for that. And if we look here, we're going to need to put a centre point for our roll. So they've given us the position where it is for the drawing. So they tell us that it's 25 up to the bottom part, and then it's 20 diameter. So we need to do half of the diameter, which is 10. 25 and 10 is 35. So we're going to mark up 35. Now I need to draw a 10 mil circle. So if I'm using my compass, the key thing for a small circle is that the 2 points are fairly level. Okay. So what I'll do here again is I'll mark my 10 mil mark. Okay, so if your compass points aren't level, it's going to be quite difficult for the circle. Just adjust one of these here and adjust your lead up and down to make sure that the two of them are level. So there's basically my circle. Okay, and we can draw this down solid now. So the other thing that we don't know is, or no, we do know, is basically that we have an even smaller circle inside. Now, ideally to do this is going to be very, very difficult to do with compass. You might just about do it, but ideally you'd have a circle template. So this is going to be a 10 mil diameter circle inside or a 5 mil radius. If I take my circle template, I'm going to look for number 10 here. I'm going to line it up with my crosshairs. Okay, so ideally what I need to do is make sure that's extended out a little bit further. Okay, so apologies having to move this out to one side, but it's just for the visualizer. So there's my circle, and what I'll do at this stage is I'll just heavy in my other circle just so that I can see. Now, I made a small mistake there. That inner circle that I've drawn should actually be hidden detail, okay, because that's inside an actual the object. Okay, so there's basically my object, and what I'll do is I'll just go over this just so that it can be seen to be heavy. Ideally you wouldn't do this, you go back over it with your compass. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to fill in some of the details. So the first thing is, this was the bit I didn't know. I didn't know what height this was, and this is why it becomes slightly shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this across to here, okay, and now I know what height this view here is. Okay, so the other thing now that I can project across is basically my outside edges and my inside edges. So that will be technically the most correct way. So from the question we can see that this sticks out 10, or we can assume So this will be level here. So here basically is my outside of my dowel, and it then comes up to the full thickness of 20 as well. So come across here. Okay, I should have wrote up this line as well. So there's my rod. Right, we'll come back and heavy in these two rods here in a minute. Right, and what I'll have is I'll have a little hidden detail section here. So basically that represents this. So that represents, let's see, here. So this is where it comes up solid, then it comes down, then it's hidden detail inside because the timber is in the way, and then it goes back up to full size there. Okay, so that looks to be basically that. Now there is one other thing that isn't shown exactly, and that is how far down does this groove come to stop, or is it curved, or is it flat? So I'm going to assume that it's flat. So I'm going to draw this like so, and I'm going to assume that that circle there will rest on that. Now, as I said, this circle here should be hidden detail. Now, the last thing then that I need to do is, if I look at the platforms, I can see that they're stepped. They're not exactly out to the edge. So I can see this is 110, and then this point joins to here. So half 110 is 55. So from my center line, I'll measure out 55. And measure out 55. And again, these will be inside the object, so they'll be hidden detail. Okay, so I draw this across. And the same. Yeah. Now we're shown in the question that there's a light line to go from here to here. So I'll draw this in a blue. And if I do that, and I do that, that will give me the point at which that and that will end up at. Okay. So let's continue that out. And then again, hidden detail. Bring it down. So at this stage, I have the question completed. I have forgot about this center here, which I may as well put in now at this stage. So this is in the center, and there's a radius of 15. So it's 15 to the left and 15 to the right. So half of my 170 is 85. I'll draw a bit of a light line up here. This is only in the top circle, or the top ledge where the circle is. So I'll 15 and 15. And we'll heavy that line, and we'll heavy that line. So what I have now is basically my two views done. Now, as I said, we're going to do a plan as well, but we're going to finish it off as if it's the wood request for a minute. So insert 4 main dimensions. So it doesn't matter which main dimensions you pick, right? Ideally, I wouldn't pick ones that are the same. So let's see if I have a darker blue. So this one here, we'll take, and we'll write 10. And again, it should be from this side. Okay, so I'm not going to put a dimension on that with my pencil because it won't look too wide. I'm not going to put a dimension on here because it's an unknown size. But I will put a dimension across the top, because again, it would be a key measurement. I will put a dimension across this size, because it would be a key measurement. Okay, so I'll have to use my set square just because my T-square hits off the visualizer. Okay, so we know that this is 150, and we know that this length was 170. So I have 1, 2, 3. We'll draw some small arrowheads on this one. Okay, and the last one now I'm going to pick maybe the 30 mil height. So I'm going to draw this to one side. I'm going to use this to make sure that it's right up to the top. And we'll write in 30 again as if I'm reading it on this side. Now that could probably be a little bit later. So there's basically that. So what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to finish off and do the plan, so that if this was a TG question, they may also ask for a plan. In this case, they've only asked for 2 views. So my first step is I'm going to bring all my points that I need down to here. Okay, and then literally going to project them all down to 45 degrees. By doing this I won't have to measure anything again. I won't need my center line as such. I forgot this edge. Okay, and by doing it this method, I will have all my info, even if I'm not sure which is 100% heavy and light at this stage. Okay, so this is why it was critical that I didn't come down too far. 100 gave me space for my dimensions, but at the same time didn't mean that I don't have enough space for my plan. So I'm going to project all these straight across. Okay, so again, some of your lines might be a little bit closer, a little bit neater. The thickness of my pencil doesn't help, so this gap here should be even to the top one, but again, the thickness of my pencil makes a slight difference in that. You should have a sharper 2H pencil. Okay, so very quickly, if that was asked for, I'd have got quite a few marks for the plan. I'll definitely get an awful lot more if I just start to bring down all these lines. So as well as bringing down the 45 degree lines, bring down my widths. Oh, excuse me. So technically, all the plan is there except for some of the curves. Now obviously I've made a small mistake there with that line. Unfortunately, the colour doesn't come off perfect, but I'll try to get the typics at the end. So there's basically my question like so. So what I'll do is I'll start to heavy in the bits that I know. So the first thing I know is basically the outline is a solid block and it doesn't get intersected by anything. So it's basically that. We then know our uprights are solid, and while they're intersected with the groove for the slot, the outsides of them are still going to be perfectly solid. Now, we then want to do our dowel, our rod. So basically that's going to come across like this. That's our circular rod down the middle. And then it comes in like so. Now, what I should have here is these lines here should be hidden detail. These little bits here. Okay, because they'll have a groove in underneath. But we'll come back to them at the end. We then have my platforms. So this is my first one, which I'll heavy in. And these are my two at the back. Okay, and again the gaps should look even. Now this one here has a curve in it, so I'm going to bring down my center point. And I've used this for my radius. So sorry, that line is a tiny bit crooked. There's my groove. And that's basically that. So what I'll do is I'll fix up the little bits of hidden details. Should be hidden detail here with the Tipex pen, because I've done them in black pencil. So this bit here. Okay, so I'll fix them up later on. But basically this bit here should have a little bit of hidden detail. This bit here should have a little bit of hidden detail.